Hello to you, Jim. I'm so pleased to welcome you to the Coming Home podcast. Jim Gale, everyone, is a father, a freedom fighter, and lover. And his business is foodforestabundance.com. That's the website you can go to find out the nitty-gritty of how he can help you get started or improve what you're already doing on your land, even if it is just your own backyard. Welcome, Jim. I'm so excited about this call.
Oh, I am too, Christine. Thank you so much for having me on and for our wonderful conversation so far.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Jim, why don't you start? Just help the audience out by telling us why you're doing what you're doing now, like what was your trigger points and your why, so that on a given day when everything's turning to custard, you need to know your why. And from your why, what was important to you? And then we'll explore your how.
You got it. That's beautiful. So it started out in 2007 when I learned that the world is controlled by people who are destroying it, and that if we continue to destroy our natural resources, our soil, our water, our fisheries, our plant life, and our forests, and so on, that we aren't going to have a future. And I have four daughters. And so my why is essentially my daughters and my family, my wife, and I love nature. I love people. I've lived in 47 countries. I've lived with the Maasai in Africa. I've lived in the jungles of Chiang Mai. I've lived all over the city of Karachi, Pakistan, which was very interesting. And I love people, I love culture. And when I learned that if we continue to use our resources this way, I might not have grandkids, that became my why.
That's a very good why. All right, so now you've got your why, that's what keeps you going. What was your what? What was important to you in that?
What was my question was what's going on, and how is this possible that all these things are happening the way they are? And so when I learned what was going on and I learned who and all of those other details, I then started asking the question how, right? And I know that's what we want to get to, right? Is and I love going right to the how. Is there a way to win this game, this war, this is there a way to shift the mindset of humanity in such a way that we decide that it's best to love our land and not poison and mine and destroy our land. And when I've read a lot of books on the matter. In fact, one of the fundamental books was Napoleon Hill. He wrote the book called Think and Grow Rich back many decades ago, practically almost 100 years ago now, he started. And his book, his fundamental deduction is whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. And this is the man that studied the most successful entrepreneurs in the history of the world up until this point. And that's what he deducted after his study. So, using that as my foundation, I started asking the question, how can we reverse course? How can we create a future of abundance for our grandkids and beyond? And I became obsessed with asking that question. And that has led me to where we are now, proving the solution to all of the world's biggest problems.
So has it been about 20 years, 18, 20 years since you made that pivotal change?
It has, yes. Yes. I've been obsessed and then joyfully obsessed and now lovingly obsessed with the same question and the same mission for about 20 years.
You're also at the advantage now of being able to look back over your shoulder and map out what was a good idea but didn't really kind of work out, what you would do if you redid it. But you've got so much experience now, and I know we've got families who are going, okay, tell us what to do. Like most of the people in the homeschooling, home education world, they don't need to be convinced of what you were just sharing before. To homeschool, you already need to be somewhat of a contrarian and quite a strong person. So You won't need to convince many people of this. So, can we please start with, let's say you've got a just a normal suburban backyard like we, maybe an eighth of an acre, a lot of grass, um, plenty of weeds and flowers, maybe a token fruit tree here and there, but hearing what you're starting on, how do you suggest that we go about assessing what we do before we make some major decisions and go plowing up our front yard? Tell us, like, step one, step two, step three.
Step one is set the intention to be a producer as well as a consumer, right? And for the folks who've studied the religious narratives, set the intention to be a steward of the land, right? Somebody who protects and cares for the land. And when you make that intention, something absolutely divine happens. Because when you set that intention, you start seeing the land and Mother Nature, this great earth, as a epic resource, an absolute abundance creation system. And then when you start observing and interacting from that intention, instead of extraction, my question is, how can I serve you today? And then when we start serving our land, building soil and designing and putting the right plant species together and designing our land and our homesteads to be productive, well, that's the first step in the step towards the ultimate freedom and abundance. And it changes how we look at things. And it's so joyful. Like, I quit going to the gym because just yesterday I was going to go to the gym. And I'm like, I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm going to go get some dirt, some soil in 5-gallon buckets. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it around these fruit trees that are all around me here. And because we have one area on the property that's really good soil. And this area here was sand. And so instead of going to the gym, I worked out with 5-gallon buckets of soil. And I got so much done in the same amount of time that I would have been at the gym. It was absolutely incredible.
It seems to me that if you start working on the land and doing a lot by hand, the gyms would be kind of superfluous in the end, unless there were, weaknesses. It's sometimes I think about our grandparents that would just be quite puzzled about why. Anyway,
Yeah.
all right, so you've got intention, it's mind and deciding, and then assessing your property, your soil you've mentioned. So before you get all enthusiastic and start throwing in trees and plants, assess your soil.
Yeah, start with the design. So, in the agricultural design science of permaculture, the ethics are so beautiful. The ethics are earth care, people care, and reinvesting our surplus to earth care and people care. And then the principles become our guide for how we make decisions, right? The first principle is observe and interact. And then as we look at these principles and ask questions around these other principles, we start seeing our land from a design perspective. And we become the architects and engineers of our family homesteads in such a way where the abundance that's created out of this small space is truly exponential.
Mm, mm. So we can potentially grow a lot of food on a relatively small space if we concentrate on design. I should point out to listeners that Jim is coming to us from Orlando, Florida, correct?
That's right.
So very different from Auckland, New Zealand, or Sydney, Australia, or London, England, or something. However, the principles would be the same. So I go outside with my husband this weekend and we start sorting out the soil. What do we need to get maybe tested? Would you do soil testing, Jim?
I'm into soil building.
Okay.
We started out with horrible soil and we build soil. Apologies. Did I cut out there for a second?
For a fraction of a second.
Okay, good. So yeah, so we're not as big into testing now. If you have something on your land then, if you want to do a certain high density type of monoculture, then testing could be good. But we're into polycultures, which means diversity. And so our thing is to start with whatever you got and then just build soil. Put the right, like compost teas, worm castings, cow manure, chicken manure, stuff like that. And boom, you put that stuff together, and that stuff will build life into the dirt. And then that life is what supports the fruit trees and so on.
Mm. I think if you add a wide range, like we're quite close to the sea as well, so we could go down and haul up seaweed if we wanted to. But the earth is quite capable of building itself. It's been doing it for millennia, so
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of people out there that are scared about forever chemicals and all of these wicked poisons that are being sprayed on our land. We have products like soil saviors and Bactigrow and all these different products that literally eat the poisons, and the byproduct is bioavailable fatty acids and nutrients that the plants love. So, for people who are scared about what they're starting with, there's a solution for all of it, and it's always based in nature.
mm. That's a good point actually, because so many of our soils, just going back a few decades ago, had the like arsenic and lead compounds in them, DDT and so forth. And some of the more modern ones, Roundup, you know,
Yeah.
comparably just as bad really. So that's a good point. You can undo and let nature reconstruct. I like
That,
that.
that that's exactly what nature does. Nature takes death and turns it into life. You just give it a little help here and there, and it'll do the rest of the work for you. People always ask me, they say, Jim, I don't know how to grow food. Neither do I. I don't grow anything, right? Nature does all the hard work. Our job is just to put in the design elements and to make sure that the right plants are planted in the right guilds and in the right spaces, right? So some plants like to have wet feet, like bananas. Bananas love to be in with a lot of water. Other plants, like avocados, like to have dry feet, right? They don't want to have roots that are soaked in the water. So that's what we do with permaculture is we look at any land anywhere in the world. We find out how much rain it gets, how to store water, how much sun it gets. Some plants like to be in full sun, and other plants must be in the shade, right? So we figure out how to put full sun plants next to plants that like to be in the shade. So you can literally have layers and layers of food in your yard in the food forest.
Mm. And that in itself, I'm already seeing is the perfect opportunity for homeschooling families. Let that be part of the children's learning. A saying I mentioned to you the other day, within the Charlotte Mason educational approach, which was our approach over the 20 years we homeschooled, one of the popular sayings is the world is your classroom. You don't need textbooks to be like the foundation. Just open the doors, go outside. What is that going? That's going to become your classroom, and I can see this kind of project just being perfect.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk about the school. Is, is this a good time to jump to the school?
Yes, I think so. Yes, we can go over to tell us what you have done on your in your community, how it came about, and what you're doing.
So, first of all, I want to show you real quick our classroom. Just this morning, the students were planting out a bunch of plants that they seeded and germinated into these new raised beds. So, this is our classroom. And in this little area, we have okra and cranberry hibiscus, and we have 5 types of blueberries and 5 types of citrus and bananas and coconuts and turmeric. And we have about 40 different types of food producing plants just in this area. And these are mostly perennial plants that take less maintenance than a lawn. Right? A lot of people think or farming is hard work. Well, farming the way it is done now is hard work, but I'm not a farmer. I don't want to be a farmer. I want to be somebody who can walk outside my door and have access to a massive amount of food with less maintenance than a lawn. So that's the foundation of it. And the school, the students in our school are outside more than half the day. They're on screens less than an hour a day. So, what we've created is a model where we have a curriculum library at originsreclaim.org. And then we are building that up with the world class teachers on permaculture and regeneration. And then we use that to teach the kids a lesson. And then, after the kids learn the lesson, then they go out into the field and they practice the lesson. And here's where the school is incredibly unique. The parents and the students of this school will receive the yield. So imagine that these kids, these students, are planting 10 seeds a day, which takes like minutes. And then they're watering and caring for the other ones that they planted the day before and the week before and the month before. Over time, that total act of stewardship, of caring for the plants and animals, takes less than an hour a day. And as a result of 20 kids doing that every single day, that's 2,000 new plant starts. Let me see, it's 10 times 20 is 200 every single day. And over then 20 days in a month, you've got 4,000 new plant starts a month. And every one of these plant starts after, let's say, 30, 60, 90 days is worth $5 or $10. So now we've got a massive amount of value that can come out of these schools all around the world every single month. And then what we did is we went and knocked on some retailers' doors in our local community. And we, like, the 10th Street Market is right in the heart of St. Cloud, Florida. And we said, hey, we've got a school where the children are going to grow food and help create plant starts for our community. Would you be willing to be a retail store for our school? And the 4 people we talked to, they all said yes. So now we have a local food supply chain where the students of the school create such value that the school itself is a massive financial benefit to everybody involved. And the result of this is poison free, healthy food for our community.
So are you selling food or are you selling like seedlings for people to plant or both?
We will have an abundance of food and we'll have an abundance of plant starts. So we will be selling both.
Got you. All right. So already we can see that the children just simply aren't learning for the sake of learning, which in our day was pretty boring. They're actually learning productively for a good reason, which is helping them to grow down into their future, equipping them with essential skills. So we've already touched on the very basic gardening, and you showed us your area there.
Yeah.
And size-wise, that probably looks like, maybe an average size suburban garden.
I want to show you. I just got to show you, since this opportunity just arose. My daughter and her friend just got done with school, and they have some little animals in here, and they want to get the animals out. So this is school. Isn't that awesome? Okay, I'm on a show now. Okay, Tessa. So thank you. You can go on in. All right, I'm on a show. Good stuff. All right, can you shut the door? Thank you, Tessa. So I'm
Love
sorry,
that.
Christine, can you repeat that question?
No, that is quite okay. I love that because she's never going to forget these things that she's just discovering now. And if she is going to go and research what that animal is, how it got there, what it needs to do now, oh, that's beautiful. Is that an orchid?
It's a yes, it is. It's the flower off of an orchid.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between What has passed for education and in the last 100 years or so, and what is truly education, knowledge, wisdom, experience, which is what your vision for your school is there. Now, what was I thinking there? Oh, along the business lines of things. So we've got the gardening skills, those very basic things, which will equip the boys and girls for their life. Now, the business related side of it, so they're going to have to learn, I guess, about budgeting and planning and selling and new ideas. What have you seen naturally come out of this project?
Well, naturally, the kids are so engaged. So here's the thing that gives me my heart makes my heart sing. My daughter goes to school early every single day, and she comes home late every single day because she loves being at school, right? And I did not like being at school. Just the idea that my daughter is enjoying her time is so profoundly beneficial because when we are enjoying our moments, our creative mind is exploding with possibilities. And then when we add on to that a little bit of structure and ideas about how to plant and how to communicate and how to basically integrate math and science and all these different curriculum components into the act of stewardship and creating an entrepreneurial business. In fact, I got so inspired by the elementary school that in January I'm opening a senior high. And for everybody listening who homeschools, this senior high will be 6th grade to 12th grade. And the students of this school will be literally creating and operating a business from school. And they will be creating their own social media. They'll be creating their own videos, their own content, their own pages, their own structure. They'll be doing farmers markets. They'll be planting seeds. And as a result of that, I am fairly certain that this school will make tens of thousands of dollars a month within the first 12 to 18 months. And where does that money go? It goes back to the students and their families. And this can be duplicated and replicated, and we are creating the foundation to do so all over the world. And everything we are doing is open source. We have no patents, no NDAs, no non-competes. Everything is service and giving because people are generally good. People are generally reciprocal. So the more we serve the land and others, the more we are served back. It's a beautiful energy wheel.
Mm. It's a complete package. One of the mistakes that like yours and my generation needs to work out of our own memory hole is that life is compartmentalized. But when you look at what you're doing, homeschooling mentality, it's not the four wall, it's everything. So as a natural ripple on effect, especially with your older children that you're going to be the older students bringing in, they're now making money. New problem, great new problem. What are they going to do with that money? So now I can see, and you would have already pre-thought this, how are you going to educate them about fiat money and the alternative side of the world, how to invest in a way that keeps, that you and I are familiar with, that keeps you safer than in the system. The possibilities in that would be huge. I realize we're just kind of slightly off track now, but at the same time, we're not because this can't be separated. So have you kind of got some thoughts along that line too?
We sure do. So we again are following the permaculture ethics of earth care, people care, and reinvesting our surplus to earth care and people care. So as the money comes in, the financial abundance from the school flows in, it will be distributed and shared among all the families involved. And then everybody will have kind of there's this idea of UBI, universal basic income. If that comes from the government, we are screwed, right? If it comes from our own creativity and our own productivity, and we voluntarily repurpose our surplus to build our community around us of abundance, then it creates this energy wheel. So with that said, as financial income things flow, which include plants, like, I want to share this. All wealth is derived from nature, right? So I would much rather have a handful of seeds. If I had to choose between a handful of dollars and a handful of seeds, and I had to keep them all in the bank for the next 10 years, I would choose a handful of seeds because in 10 years, the dollar is not going to be worth anything. And maybe in 2 years or maybe in 1 year, right? So the seeds have true intrinsic exponential value. It's Gresham's law. The seeds are going up in value, the dollar is coming down in value. The fiat currencies are collapsing, and they're kind of like crap, right? They're shit. What do we do with shit? We compost it, right? So we are going to then use that financial surplus, and we're going to put food forests in local parks. We're going to work with the local police force, and we're going to put food forests around the police academy here. We're going to put food forests around the local churches, and we're going to basically create a foundation of food abundance here in St. Cloud, Florida. And we're going to put the whole thing on film so it can be easily replicated. As we are doing it, people all around the world will be doing it. And when we achieve mass adoption of this, we solve deforestation and mass extinction and cancer and diabetes and heart disease, and we end tyranny.
It's a great goal. It's potentially overwhelming to ponder too much about what's going on outside of what we can actually change. But what we can change is ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly calming when you realize that you can't change what can't be changed, but you can work on what you've got. And if more people are doing that too, that's just exponential. It's like compound interest, really. So I'm just thinking, going back to bringing things back down to what you can actually control. Let's say in your own homeschool family or in the school that you have set up or a co-op. What kind of equipment do you think a family needs to invest in, and what is just simply not necessary?
So I would invest in a couple pairs of gloves, a wheelbarrow, a shovel, and a rake.
That's it.
Right? That's it. That's all you need to invest in. Everything else, you can get creative and it's all around us, right? And then some seeds. And then if you have a little bit extra money or if you want to collaborate with people, invest in some fruit trees and some grapevines and some different food producing perennials.
Get, depending on the type of soil that is in your environment, what do you think are the absolutely essential plants to be growing?
Well, again, it depends on the environment. Here in Florida, sweet potatoes. In fact, if there was one plant that could suggest for everybody, pretty much, it's sweet potatoes and potatoes, but really sweet potatoes. You can grow these things in 5-gallon buckets in your closet with a little light and a little water. You can grow them all over, and the leaves are edible, the stems and the flowers, and of course, the sweet potatoes. And they're really nutrient dense. They're incredibly good for you, and they grow really rapidly. So I would say sweet potatoes, and then whatever else in your zone can grow well and be low maintenance.
Mm. So don't overthink it. Don't get too fancy. Start simple.
Yes, that's simple, simple and easy.
Simple and easy. Well, a plant just wants to grow, really, doesn't it?
It does. It
Yes.
little.
I've been inspired since I've came across you, Jim, a couple of weeks ago, and I've been going out and steadily every day because I'm not a particularly fit woman. And I am mature, and I know very well that you can get damaged by just launching yourself out into the garden and digging and weeding, and pretty soon you've put your back out. So I've been slowly but surely pulling weeds, deciding what's going to go where, and just letting myself get inspired so I'm not overwhelmed. So I feel quite excited.
Oh, that's awesome. And
Yes.
fruit trees are so easy. Like You get a fruit tree in the right area and you plant a little guild around the fruit tree, right? A guild is a community of plants that support each other. Some are nitrogen fixers, other attract beneficial insects, and so on. And when you put these things together, they're self-maintaining. Like I could walk away from this food forest and come back in 30 years, and the thing would be epic. It would be like a massive food production system with no maintenance.
Inspiring. Tell me, do you, in a small property, let's say here in New Zealand, we could have chickens. We're allowed to have a small amount of chickens so long as they're not pests and we can't have roosters. Do you recommend that in a small area?
I am a huge fan of chickens. And this idea of being allowed to grow food on your own property and raise things like chickens, we need to get rid of that whole idea. And we need to, and here's how we do that. We basically just do it. We start growing food on our property. And if somebody comes in, the odds are those HOA people or those community, government people are spraying poisons on the land. The odds are that they're using these poisons to control things. Well, when you contrast that, when you become very outspoken and say, listen, the food supply chain is collapsing, the food is poisonous, and we are growing healthy food here and we're sharing it with our neighbors. And if you think you have the authority to tell me that I cannot be productive on this land and be the caretaker and protector of my land, then you have another thing coming, and put it on video. And you know what? It might not work out, but we cannot continue to comply with that which I call evil, right? We must not comply. When anybody tells us we have to do something harmful to our land and we cannot do something good, we make that a point of very public conversation. And in our case, they don't want to mess with us because we're right and we're proving that we're right, and they don't want a public argument proving how wrong they are.
Mm. That's good to bear in mind because the local authorities can come across as quite heavy-handed, and sometimes it's confusing as to what they are actually permitted to do and what we don't need to do. It needs due diligence. Jim, is there anything you quickly want to round off with before we put a full stop in here for today?
Yes,
We'll
I
be
love
back.
it. I would just round off with this. AI has the ability to take almost all the jobs over the next 1 to 5 years, right? This is the solution to that. When we get together with local communities, we create local food systems and local security systems. This is the way. The only way is a series of local communities that collaborate and share with each other, but everything is about going local. It's decentralization of power, putting the power back in the hands of the individuals, the families, and the local communities, and then network with the rest of them. And there are so many people out there that when you demonstrate this and you speak about it, they want to do it too. They might not know it's possible until you take the lead and you say, here's what's possible. And you will, this is the storm that we create in such a beneficial way as we stand together. In fact, Martin Luther King said, those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war. And organize around what? It's local food, water, energy, and security systems where we protect and serve our land and our neighbors, and together we win.
Mm. What a way to finish what will become the first of some follow-up interviews, Jim. I have so enjoyed this today. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to gather in questions and more ideas and then get back to you again with a follow-up. How about that?
I love it, Christine. Thank you for everything you do.
Oh, thank you, Jim. I'll catch up with you next time.
Okay, ciao for now.
All right. Bye-bye.